beautiful day to walk somewhere, isn't it? That's what I said. First, we need to have another round of applause for the gentleman that came immediately before us, the vet from Iraq. It was brothers like him back in 1967. I graduated high school here in Chicago in 1968, so I was draft age when the Vietnam War was in progress, and it was a handful of brothers like him that came back and told us the truth in 1967. We took them from high school to high school on the black south side and west side of Chicago to explain to people what the war was really about, and that's what saved me and a bunch of other people from doing something we really didn't want to do and that we really shouldn't have had to do. Anyway, today is a beautiful place. They say that the president comes from Chicago. Y'all heard that one? Yeah. So we have some kind of a special responsibility here, I think. I have a special responsibility here. I worked with Barack Obama back in 1992 for about 5 months. He was my immediate supervisor in something called Project Vote. We had a registration drive for the 1992 presidential elections where we signed up 133,000 people to register to vote here in Chicago and stampeded them out to the polls. That's what began his political career. No, don't applaud. And I'm going to tell you why that's nothing to applaud. There's somebody else here who was in on that too, but he wouldn't want me to point him out, so I probably won't. This is why. An economist named Michael Hudson, he said that the function of Democrats and Republican candidates and office holders is to deliver their voting constituencies to their campaign contributors. Now, what's that really mean? What does that mean? That means that when Republicans and Democrats campaign, they sound different, don't they? Republicans campaign often on misogyny and homophobia and anti-immigrant stuff and religious bigotry and, of course, white racism. That's what they do. Democrats, well, they don't quite come out against all these things all the time, but at least they give the impression, sometimes they do, but more often they give the impression that even if they won't fight for all these things, they'll stand back and let you fight for them. And then once they get your endorsement, your support, they carry that to their campaign contributors. So they campaign differently, but they govern alike.
Yeah, you betcha. You betcha.
Barack Obama versus John McCain. John McCain told us in 2008 that we needed to send more troops to Afghanistan because we're winning. Barack Obama said we need to send more troops to Afghanistan. Why? Because we were losing. So the common ground is that they both wanted to send more troops to Afghanistan. When they talked in the first part of that phrase, they were appealing to their voting constituencies, and when they talked in the second part of it, they were signaling the people who fund their campaigns. We need to remember that the bank bailouts, the first of the bank bailouts, was shepherded through Congress by Barack Obama. Bush couldn't pass it. He called in Barack Obama off the campaign trail, and Barack whipped Democratic votes to pass Bush's bailout. Once in office, he quintupled down on it. We've got a wave of foreclosures now. And the Obama administration is defending the banksters and blocking attempts by states to prosecute them. That's right. Stop complaining. Stop crying, y'all. Isn't that what he said? He said, suck it up. So, a little later, we're going to take a swing back by his campaign office. And we're not going to be crying. We're not going to be complaining. Okay? what we're going to be doing is we're going to be withdrawing our consent from this. You might think that these politicians only have to deliver our consent once every 2 years or once every 4 years. But that's not really true. That's not really true. By the end of the Bush administration, they were pretty much illegitimate, weren't they? The majority of the American people wanted them impeached, wanted them investigated, wanted them prosecuted. The Bush administration at the end couldn't do anything that it wanted to do without the consent and without the cooperation of Democrats. Well, what we've got to do is we've got to withdraw our consent from this administration. We've got to make this administration every bit as illegitimate as we made Bush. I got a t-shirt here that probably dates from 4 years ago that talks about the work release tour. You can't see it there, but that's Cheney, Condoleezza, George W., and Rummy in prison stripes. Didn't happen though, did it? Didn't happen. Well, we've got to try to make it happen now, but we've got a whole new set of criminals with a whole new set of crimes. Right now, we've got the first black president of the U.S. bombing black people in Africa. How many people know about that? Do you know that the U.S.-backed rebels are conducting a campaign of ethnic cleansing inside Libya? How many people know that? Okay, that's what kind of audience. See, that's why I threw away my first speech. But what we've got is we've got all black towns in Libya being wiped off the map. We've got a park in Tripoli where 4,000 or 5,000 black Libyans and sub-Saharan migrants from south of there in Africa are being confined like diseased cattle, without much food, without much water, awaiting a fate that isn't in their hands, but I guess it's in ours. We've got a situation where the U.S. Navy has watched boatloads of Africans trying to leave Libya, go off into the Mediterranean and leave on the horizon, probably to sink somewhere, or starve, or die. But we invaded the place out of our humanitarian concerns. What we've got here in Chicago is we've got some special responsibilities. What's going to happen here in May, y'all? The G8 conference, that's right. Last year, the year before, and 10 years before that, we were supposed to get the Olympics here in Chicago, weren't we? It was a widespread mobilization in many, many neighborhoods, including the one I grew up in, that stopped the Olympics. Yeah, give yourselves a hand for that. Thank you. You need to. I wasn't here for it. I moved to Georgia at the end of 2000. But you guys stopped the Olympics, and some other forces that are not here today stopped the Olympics. The people on the south and west sides of Chicago, especially the south side, they helped stop it. And they're not here today mostly, which is a concern. Black people have been politically the black wall around Barack Obama. I was in a preacher's office in 2007, who was a Harvard grad himself, who was saying, we've got to build a black wall around Brother Obama so that no kind of criticism can affect him, so that he can be empowered to do what he needs to do. Well, you know what? They did that. And right now, black folks are the black wall around Barack Obama. But being that wall hasn't done us any good, because we're not able to protect him against the banksters, because the banksters are inside the wall, aren't they? We're not able to protect Obama against the militarists, because the militarists are inside that wall. Barack Obama decides who's inside that wall. And being that wall hasn't done black people any good. or anybody else. So we've got to make him, in the black community, illegitimate. Some of us are working on that. This war in Libya and publicizing the ethnic cleansing that's going on in Libya will help us do that. And making Chicago, how can I say it? I don't want to say ungovernable, but making Chicago a noisy, tumultuous, democratic place. Democratic with a small d. During the G8, when the world comes here to plan, is going to help us do that. So we need to take a walk to Barack Obama's campaign office, and we need to tell him that when he brings his G8 here, we are going to be here too. We're not going to be penned up and cooped up in our neighborhoods. And down the road, we're going to be working in the black community to have a black presence in the streets at the G8. We're going to work on that. We think we've got something special to bring also to the Occupy Wall Street and Occupy LaSalle Street and Occupy Everywhere movement. A lot of people are mad about the banksters, but there's a bunch of people in the black community who've been crusading for reparations and justice for decades. They've been focusing on some of these same bankster criminals and insurance companies, and some of their roles go back 200 and 300 years. Somebody financed the slave ships. These were insurance companies that are still in business. Somebody financed the slave trade. These were banks that are still in business. 1 minute. And so what these people bring is they bring a historical component to our outrage against the banksters. This didn't start with Glass-Steagall. This didn't start with Glass-Steagall, but it's going to end on our watch. We're going to occupy everywhere. One last thing. In D.C. yesterday, my colleague Glenn Ford called me up and he said that Dick Gregory rushed onto the stage at Occupy D.C. And you know what he said? He said, President Obama supports you. He told me to let you know. Yeah, but when you read Obama's statement, it really wasn't that. Our Democratic friends are going to try to co-opt Occupy Wall Street. They're going to try to turn it into a GOTV thing for themselves next November. We mustn't let them. This is ours. So let's take a walk. Let's go to President Obama's campaign office and let's politely, or maybe not so politely, withdraw our consent. Thank you.